I'm Inga Peterson, and I'm the Associate Director of Operations for Dukeengage. I am joined today by Kristen Wright, who is our Assistant Director. Kristen, you want to wave? And I'm also joined by some participants who have done Dukeengage in the past, who are alums of our program. Could you guys give a wave? We're really thankful to have you on as well today. Basically, what we hope to go over today, and we'll be sure to leave time for questions at the end, but feel free to put questions in the chat. We're going to talk a little bit about what is Dukeengage, what's happening with Dukeengage this year, what it might look like. We'll have our alums share some stories, then talk about who we think is a good fit for Dukeengage, some basics about how to apply, and then how to decide between the programs for this summer. So next slide, please, Kristen. So for a little bit of background, we are about to celebrate our 14th summer with Dukeengage. And I have to give a little shout out to one of our former colleagues, Thomas Phillips, who is a part of the history that we're celebrating with Dukeengage this summer. Hi, Thomas. It's our 14th year, for 12 of which we've been listed as the top reason that students choose to go to Duke. As of this summer, we have just under 5,000 students who have worked with 600 community organizations in 84 nations, 46 US cities, who've logged over 1.5 million hours of work in their communities. To give you an idea of our broad reach on campus, in the past 5 years alone, we've had students from 55 majors, minors, and certificates from 51 different departments. Okay, Kristen, thank you. So I want to talk just a little bit about really what is Dukeengage. So first and foremost, Dukeengage is a community engagement program. It's an immersive summer opportunity in which students and faculty collaborate with communities locally and globally to address critical social issues. So what does this really mean? Let's unpack it a little bit. So by immersive, we mean that you're positioning yourself within a community and you're really getting to know it, not from the perspective of a tourist, but as someone who's participating in and taking time to really understand the everyday life of the community. By collaboration, we mean work with, not for, not in service of, but with local organizations, many of whom have been our partners for years. And finally, how do we identify critical social issues? So in short, we don't identify them. Our partnerships are community driven, which means that we work on issues that those community members identify as important to them, not on issues that we think need to be addressed. So the goal is really reciprocal, sustainable relationships through which our students and partners are working side by side to address these critical issues. You achieve this goal really in addition to the work through training and reflection sessions, which are core components of the Dukeengage program. The work's done through an experiential learning process, which is really learning through reflecting on doing, taking time to understand the expertise and experience of the people with whom you're engaging, and thinking critically about what you're doing and why it matters. So translating the knowledge you're gaining in, the experience you're gaining into knowledge. We use the training and reflection to help support you along the way as you're thinking about the connections you're making between purpose, action, consequence, community, and change. Okay, next slide, Kristen. So you may notice that there are two words that you may have heard in relation to Dukeengage that I haven't mentioned, and that those two words are volunteering and internship. So volunteering is really about the volunteer providing a service and the organization accepting that service. Community engagement is really about a different kind of relationship, one in which it's not you serving them, but really, as I mentioned before, you're working alongside your partner, with both of you learning from and supporting each other as you work together to make change. In an internship, the focus is on gaining professional skills. So in Dukeengage, you might have something that looks like a traditional internship, but you very well may not. While you'll certainly, I hope, gain insight into potential careers and add to your professional toolkit with some of those soft skills that employers find so important, things like productivity, teamwork, leadership, empathy. That's not the purpose of the program, to prepare you in that way. Dukeengage is also sometimes confused with the study abroad program. While you receive a notation on your transcript for doing Dukeengage, and it can be another avenue for pursuing academic interests, you don't receive course academic credit for Dukeengage. While you're not going to receive credit for it, it is in many cases possible to use the experience to fulfill some of your requirements. So global health, pub policy, some other programs have field, or dare I say internship, even though I just said we don't use that word, requirements that you can use Dukeengage to fulfill. Also, some of the certificate programs have field experience as well, INE, ethics, science and society, and you may be able to use the experience to fulfill that requirement. So let's talk about the structure a little bit of the program and what it's going to look like this year. So first off, we really want the program to be as accessible to as many students as possible. So we are providing this year a $5,000 stipend. While there's no in-person programming this summer, there may be a possibility for students who are selected to live on campus if they're interested and choose to do so. The other piece is that for those of you who are on financial aid, your summer earnings requirements will be waived this summer if you're doing Dukeengage. Kristen, thank you. So what does Dukeengage look like virtually? Much of it looks the same. We'll have two types of experiences this year: group programs and independent projects, which we'll say more about those two later. Either way, the experience is 8 weeks long, full-time, 35 to 40-hour commitment. So participants are really committing to 8 weeks plus. What do I mean by that? Dukeengage, the Dukeengage experience certainly takes place over 8 weeks in the summer, but participants are also committing to substantial orientation and training, which take place in the spring and will include 3 virtual workshops and additional program-specific meetings. Again, we do this because we're working toward the goal that you'll be able to critically examine what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why all of it matters. What will be different about the work this year? Obviously, it'll be virtual in nature. This means that the community engagement will certainly look different, but we will have programming that will be able to help you find ways to still immerse yourself in your community. Kristen? So who's eligible? So all first, second, and third year students in good standing, and what we mean by that is not on academic or disciplinary probation, are eligible to apply for Dukeengage. Seniors are not, for 2 reasons related to resources. So we want for participants to be able to come back and use the resources at Duke to continue to process the Dukeengage experience after it's over. We also want for those students to be able to be used as a resource on campus as we work doing this kind of work in the Duke community as well. We get asked all the time about the right time to apply to Dukeengage. There's really no right time to apply. Half of of our participants choose to do it after their sophomore year, and about a quarter each after first year and after junior year. Some people want to use it right away and use their experience to really inform their time back on campus at Duke. And for others, it's the opposite. They want to take time to explore interest and gain some skills and use the experience as sort of a capstone. There's no advantage to applying early or waiting unless you're trying to use the experience for one of the requirements that I mentioned before. Trinity, hopefully you're all familiar with the academic engagement and global civic opportunities, DAEs, that are part of Trinity. They can be a really good resource for you as you think about mapping out your optimal pathway. Kristen.
Okay, do we have, I'm gonna stop sharing for just a minute so that we can look at the gallery view. Do we have either Demi Wang or Victoria McReynolds on here yet? Doesn't look like we do. Okay, we had a couple of students who have participated last summer who were going to share their experience, and I think they're having trouble getting on. And so I'm just going to keep going with the presentation, and hopefully we'll have them on by the end. Inga, do you mind keeping an eye on the participant list and seeing if Demi or Victoria show up? And when they do, just invite them to unmute and then let me know, and we can jump back to them.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so now we'll kind of get into the how to apply stuff. And just to be really clear, and because this is a little bit different from Dukeengage in the past, you could apply for a group program, of which we have 19. We'll get to that in just a moment this year. An independent project where you design your own project, or this year it is going to be possible to apply to both. So no more than one group program, but you could apply for a group program and an independent project this year. Go into that a little bit more detail. 18 actually is what we have right now, group programs. Approximately half of them are based in the US and half of them are based internationally. The majority of students in Dukeengage have always participated in group programs, although independent projects are a wonderful option too. The group programs are developed and led by Duke faculty members. And so usually it's in an area where they have some expertise in a community in the US or in the world where they have some relationships already built, and they're interested in bringing students into some work that they're doing with that community. The programs, we've kind of assigned different themes to them. And so if you are just beginning to think about which Dukeengage program you might be a good fit for, or even if you think you might have a pretty good idea about that already, we would really encourage you to think first and foremost about the issues that you are most interested in. And so if you go to our website on the programs page and the group programs page in particular, there's a filter there with these themes on it. Play around with it a little bit. Try checking off some things that you're interested in and seeing what programs come up. There may be something there that you didn't expect, that you wouldn't have discovered otherwise. Or you may be affirmed in what you were already drawn to. So the themes are the place to start. The daily work in the programs, the kind of cultural pieces, which will happen even virtually, and the reflection that it happens in the program is sort of all centered on the main themes of the program. So independent projects, they are exactly like what they sound. They are projects that you can develop on your own outside of a group program. the place to start would be thinking about a theme that you're interested in, but then thinking about what organizations might be working on that theme, either in your community or another one that you have an interest or a connection to. And so you can do, a Google search to find those organizations. You can talk to people on campus, faculty members, our staff, students who've worked in independent projects before, to find an organization you think might be a good match. We have some tips on our website about how to approach an organization if it's not one you don't already have a connection to, and suggest some things that you might be able to do. So we have sample independent projects or types of projects on the website that might kind of trigger something in your mind and help you to come up with some good ideas. So it's very doable. Also, the word independent is a slight misnomer in that we can have up to 3 students participating in one independent project. You would each be applying separately. There's no guarantee that each person would be selected to participate, but you can sort of team up on a project that you're interested in. We are very available for advising. So if you have an idea and you want to talk through it with us, just shoot us an email. We're happy to make an appointment or communicate with you by email to help you think through how to do this. If you apply to both an independent program project and a group program, you'll be asked to rank them on our website. And so you will indicate which is your first choice and your second. If you're selected to your first choice, then your second choice is automatically forfeited. So think about those rankings. Okay, so how do I decide? We talked about this a little bit. For group programs, you are filtering by the theme to find what you might be interested in. And then there are fairly detailed program profiles on our website. So read those carefully. Look for prerequisites, things like language requirement or coursework. Not many programs have them, but some do. Look at the dates, which are subject to change a little bit, but important to pay attention to because they're often not negotiable. Will they work with any other obligations that you have this summer? Read the profiles, looking for in particular, who would I be working with? Would I be working directly with community members here, doing some online tutoring or leading focus groups or something like that? Or would I be working with the office staff of an organization? And to what degree might I be working on my own in this program? Think about the population. Is it a group that you're interested in learning from and learning more about? Also, there are blogs written by last year's students for all but the new programs, of course. And so take a look at those. Go to the blog section of our website. Last year's programs all happened virtually as well. And so you'll get a sense of even kind of how that program might have looked virtually. Last year, of course, we had to pivot and the virtual programs happened kind of at a moment's notice. And so things will be maybe a bit different this year and hopefully even a bit more rich than they were last year, but you get a sense of what went on with that program. And then next week is Dukeengage week. And so we are having a series of information sessions about each specific program next week. The schedule is now up on our website. The registration links are live. You can register for as many of those sessions as you like, as many sessions as you're interested in learning more about. You can also you can talk to us, you can reach out to a former student. And so if you don't know someone who participated in a program, then we can put you in touch with someone. So just let us know. So the application process, most of what I'll say here is also in the FAQs on our website, but just to go through it so you have a chance to ask questions. The first thing is that the deadline is firm. It's March 7th, which is a Sunday, so you'll have the weekend to finish up that application. It's at midnight, like most deadlines are this year. We would encourage you to go ahead and start your application early. Some of you have already done that. I was looking today, there's already 20-some profiles created, 5 or so draft applications. You can save a draft and come back to it, and so it's not a bad idea to do that. Also, please give yourself plenty of time to spare when you're ready to submit. Our application is a little bit of an older system. It's a bit clunky. If you have a glitch in your internet connection, our application doesn't save quite as often as you might be used to with newer applications. So you want to be to not be hung up when the deadline's approaching and you're ready to submit. The application questions are already posted on the website in a PDF on the How to Apply page. So you can look at those. They're in a Word doc, so you can create a copy and start working on your responses. There are basically 5 to 7 short answer questions, depending on whether you're applying for a group program or an independent project. We can, if you want to talk to us about or not being sure about what one of those questions means, we're happy to advise you. We can't read application responses and help you edit them or improve them, but we're happy to talk generally about what those questions are and what program directors are looking for. It is the faculty directors that are reading applications and selecting students for the group programs. For the independent projects, it's our staff doing that and some colleagues on campus that help us out. A note again about applying to both a group and independent program. Look at the rankings so that you're thinking about which one you would be your first choice. After applying, you may be invited to interview for a group program or an independent project. Some faculty directors will do that, some won't. Some will do it very quickly after the application deadline. Some will take their time reading applications and do that much later on in the process. So don't worry if you haven't heard anything. That just varies from program to program. Notifications will come out on April 5th. So on April 5th, you'll find out what you've been selected for. And you'll have a week to submit a participation agreement and some other information that we need to register you for the program. There is some orientation and training that takes place. Some of it will happen for group programs with that specific group. The faculty members all meet with their groups at least a couple of times in the spring to talk about the project. Independent project students we will probably meet with as a group. We also offer some or require some training for all Dukeengage students that's sort of generally about civic engagement, cultural awareness, and how to sort of take care of yourself throughout a project like this. That will likely happen during 3 different weeks. There'll be lots of different sessions to sign up for, so you don't need to worry about the schedule for that now, but I will mention that the first session will likely happen the last week of classes, week of April 19th. And then there will likely be sessions the first and second week in May. So the week of May 3rd, week of May 10th. The last thing I want to mention, and we have very little information about this right now, is that it may be possible to live on campus this year. And so that is emerging as a possibility. It is unlikely that an entire Dukeengage program would be living on campus as a required component of the program. It's more likely, I think, that individual students would be allowed to apply to live on campus if they were participating in a Dukeengage program, just in case that was someone's preference. So we'll have more information about that as it rolls out. But I think that's, oh, okay, last thing. This is just sort of, in thinking about what we're looking for with Dukeengage, you're probably getting the ethos of this, but Dukeengage, to the first point there, is work. It's even more work than an internship, I would say, because you're participating not just in the sort of full-time work with the organization, but with a reflection process and a cultural enrichment process that sort of all works together to further your understanding about an issue, and you're really being pushed to make some connections. So we're looking for students that are flexible and highly adaptable and mature enough to sort of begin to deal with that and learn from that. As I mentioned earlier, To that second point, critical reflection is a core component of Dukeengage, and so we're looking for students who will dive into the issues and think about them from a variety of perspectives, while also, to that last point, being respectful and prioritizing the relationships that we have with community partners. So that's all from us, and I'll invite you to go ahead and start putting questions in the chat if you haven't done that yet. But I think we have Victoria and Demi now. I see both of them. So I'm gonna stop the share and invite each of them to talk a little bit. And maybe what I'll do here, I'm switching to gallery, is start with Victoria, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Victoria, and just say what year you are, what major you are, and if you would just tell us how you started to figure out what you wanted to apply to last summer. And I'm well aware of the fact that you applied for something that didn't end up happening and ended up doing something different. But if you can tell us about both, actually, just briefly, how you sort of picked your initial group program and then how you quickly put together an independent project.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria. I'm a sophomore majoring in biology. And so the initial project I had signed up for was Dukeengage in Peru. And the main goal was kind of ecotourism, sustainability. And I was really interested in that project primarily because of the language. I really love Spanish and I wanted to be entirely immersed in that. And then I found that ecotourism is a very like sustainable way to help a country without sort of like offending or like invading cultural practices. So that's why I initially chose that project. And then when that was canceled, I decided to do an independent project, and I kind of wanted to stay along the lines of Spanish and like languages. So my spring semester, I actually took a course on Spanish-English translation. And so I just did some research and I found this nonprofit that's based in Germany called Audiopedia. And so what they do is they have audio files that have really important vital health information on these little MP3 players, and they distribute them in areas where there might not be electricity or there's a low literacy level. So this is a good way to help women get information about health and how to take care of their kids, maintain healthy diets and stuff like that. And so my project was to translate the website from English into Spanish because they wanted to expand into Latin America. So that's what I did last summer.
Okay, and I'm going to come back to you, but Demi, why don't you do the same thing? Tell us year, major, and how you put together your independent project last year.
Yes, hello, my name is Demi. I am a sophomore as well, and I'm majoring in biology and global health. I did an independent project over the summer, and the original goal and plan was that we would go to Taiwan in to a cancer hospital, and we would help with delivering resources to patients, but also developing a website for their international patients. And additionally to that, serving almost as like music volunteers for patients and staff. But because we had to move to remote, we had to switch up our plan a little bit. So we focused more on the website development side to make resources more available to the hospital's international patients as they were trying to expand their clinical trials and have more resources and information about them accessible for others. So I think one thing that I really enjoyed about the independent project was being able to like manage and like feel really independent as like and then it was fun to communicate with your community partner and be in charge of like everything you do. Yeah, I thought it was like a really eye-opening and really great experience for doing something with me and my partner by ourselves.
Even virtually. And you worked with one other student that was kind of a partner on that project, right? Victoria, what was the virtual experience like for you, that aspect of it?
I found it, yeah, like Demi, pretty flexible, and I was still getting used to like a Zoom world, but it wasn't too bad. I liked the flexibility, and it actually worked out well since my community partner was based in Germany. With the time difference, it would have been really hard to do it synchronously. So it was actually, it ended up working out because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to work with them.
And were you able to sort of feel like you were, you know, really working full time for an organization, even though you were sitting wherever you were sitting? I don't know if you were at home in your bedroom or wherever.
Yeah, I still felt a connection. We had weekly meetings or sometimes bi-weekly meetings. And so we would just chat about the project. Or I think one part that the Dukeengage reflection session encouraged us to do was to have sort of like a virtual coffee chat and just talk with our community partners. So that really helped me feel more connected.
And what about you, Demi? Did you have a frequent contact with your partner in Taiwan?
Yeah, similar to Victoria, we had like weekly meetings every Monday, and like we would catch up on our progress and check in. And it was really nice because we always got like, it was like after all the formal, like seeing what we finished and making goals for the following week, we also had really great conversations with our community partners, just like casual conversations. So I thought it was really cool. And then my partner and I also met up and called every day to work together. So it seemed more formal and more productive that way. Because it's hard. Sometimes you're on Zoom and you're at home and you're working by yourself and you're like, like it doesn't feel like I'm actually working. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are some things you can do to make it feel even more productive. I'm remembering with your project, you had some problems that came up that you had to address. Can you tell us about a challenge that came up for you and how you worked with that?
Yeah, I think, I guess one of the biggest challenges, we really wanted to incorporate the arts into our project. And one thing that we thought was going to be a big part of our project was being able to coordinate something with the staff and patients to produce music or like perform music and share music. But because it was all over Zoom, it was difficult to, I guess, navigate and plan that, especially when the patients aren't necessarily able to be on Zoom. But yeah, I think that was one of the struggles. Another struggle was because ours is like a website development. There was an issue, I guess, with like connecting us to the website design page, and they have all their like staff for their websites, and like I guess making that connection and yeah, making that a smooth transition was difficult, but we got through that.
How about you, Victoria? Was there a challenge that you addressed in the summer?
I don't know if there were really any challenges, but it was definitely, I guess the most challenging part was just having to be in this pandemic and kind of setting a schedule for myself while still being at home. So that was probably challenging, not because of the project, but just because that's the circumstances we were in.
And do you have any advice for students thinking about whether they would be a good fit for this? What does it take to be able to do that successfully?
I think you definitely have to have an open mind and be flexible. And I found it really helpful to kind of have like an hourly routine and not just sit down and work, but kind of have mini goals to break up your day, or say like, I'm going to work from until lunch and then I'll take a break and then start working again. So taking time to make breaks and making a schedule.
Okay. And last question to both of you, and maybe starting with you, Victoria. What's happened since Dukeengage for you? Has there been any reverberations for you this year? I know it's only half the year through, but any outcomes for you personally or academically?
I've still maintained contact with my community partner, which is great. And they actually, because one of their goals was to expand into Latin America, I ended up connecting them with my uncle who has a nonprofit in Latin America. So they've been working on a project together. So it's been really interesting to hear about that.
Very cool. What about you, Demi?
Yeah, same as Victoria. We've been keeping contact with our community partner, and after our project, we actually met a couple of times afterwards to further ensure like the website was working and make like final touches and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll stop there with my questions. We had a couple of questions that I saw come through on chat. There was one asking us to elaborate more about the $5,000 stipend and who can receive it. Every student who participates in Dukeengage this summer will receive the $5,000 stipend this year. Correct? Inga, you want to say anything more about that?
Yes, everyone will receive the stipend. We do have to say there is one group of students who we're unsure about, and those are international students who are living overseas, are not in residence this year, who do not have an ITIN, an ITIN, it's a tax identification number. We're normally able to help students go through the process to get that number, but unfortunately you have to be in the country when you apply to get that number. So if you are an international student and don't have an ITIN number, then I don't think it's going to be able to work this year for you. But for all other students, you will receive the $5,000 stipend. For the international student who doesn't have the ITIN, we'll try to figure out some kind of alternative, but I don't know what that'll look like right now.
Okay, and there are a couple more questions that have come through. One is there anywhere we can find student perspectives on virtual group programs? Did virtual group programs run last year? Yes, they did. And yes, it just so happens that the two students who volunteered to help us out today both did independent projects, but there were virtual group programs that ran last year. I think the easiest or first suggestion would be to look at the blogs. There should be a link to the blogs from each group program page, or you can go to the blogs section of the website and search for a particular program. And if you read something there that kind of resonates, or someone whose opinion you'd like to know more about, you know, they're all Duke students, you can search them up and reach out. I think, you know, worst case scenario, someone doesn't reply or says they don't want to talk about it, you're also welcome just to reach out to us. If there's a particular program that you want to hear about, then we'll find someone for you to talk to. There was another question about how many students are selected for each program. So again, about group programs, they are all in the range of 8 to 12 students. So that's the size of a group program, pretty consistent there. Any other questions that you're seeing, Inga? I just had those.
I just the same questions.
Okay.
I haven't seen any others.
Okay. So I'm just going to switch to gallery view here. We would love to see your face and hear your voice. If you have a question and want to speak up, then now's the time just to throw it out there. And it could be a question for us or for Demi or for Victoria about their experiences. What else do you want to know?
Hi, I was wondering, so I know every Duke student gets to do like Dukeengage one time for like without any cost. would this like be considered that one time? And then if we were to do Dukeengage again, it would come with a cost?
Great question. Thank you for bringing that up. Mia, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So let me just clarify the very first thing you said, which was that every Duke student gets to do Dukeengage once. If you were to stop it there, that would not be totally correct, because there aren't, unfortunately, enough spots in Dukeengage for every Duke student to be able to participate during their time here. It ends up being about a quarter of the class that participates by the time that they've graduated, or that's what it has been. But what your question was about is whether there's just the one chance. And this year, since programming is virtual, for students who are affected by COVID, we are offering 2 chances to participate in Dukeengage. And so if you participated virtually last year, Demi, Victoria, or if you are selected to participate virtually this year, then you would be eligible to apply to Dukeengage again next year, which we hope would be in person. Does that answer your question, Mia?
Yes. And then, so when we were to apply, like in the following year, it would also come without a cost?
It would. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a more logistical question. Just, I was looking at the PDF form of just like the overview of the opportunities, and the one that's located in Durham says TBA, and then there's no specific information session for that one. So I was wondering, but then I did see like a program description on like another part of the website, so I was kind of confused.
Yes. Leave it to somebody to find the one little thing I haven't been able to update yet. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that program was sort of a late breaking addition, and I am trying to figure out how to update the PDF using the correct fonts. It's just a complete technical thing to put the description in there, but it's really nothing more right now than what it says on the program profile, that those program leaders have not yet opted to schedule an information session. If they do, that will be updated on the website, so I'd say stay tuned. But if there are a couple more programs, I think Washington, DC, and yeah, those may be the only 2 right now that have not actually scheduled information sessions. If they haven't, that means that they are very happy to communicate with you. Well, almost any program director is very happy to communicate with you by email. I see one of our program directors on here, and I know she would vouch for that. But certainly if there's not an information session scheduled, then please, by all means, email the program directors with any questions you have, or ask for a meeting to talk about your interest in the program.
And the email for the program directors are included in the profile.
Got it. Thank you.
Good questions. What else are we leaving out?
Shame, do you want to add anything as a program director?
I just was on another meeting. Now I have 10 minutes and I have to go teach. And I just noticed you have some information session. So I was very quickly just jump in. Well, I would encourage you to check out the Dukeengage Zhuhai program. In China.
Giving a plug for the China program. That's fair.
What else? If there's nothing more, then please, again, take a look at the schedule of information sessions next week and register for anything and everything that you're interested for. We're very excited